What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, as you guessed it from the thumbnail, we are going to be changing the oil in the ZR1. Now, when I first put this car together, I did an oil change, obviously when I did the cam swap and all of that, but I used Royal Purple oil. And from talking to the manufacturer of the cam, he said that he recommends going with a redline oil or a driven oil. So I'm going to be switching out to that. It needs the change anyway. So this is what we're going to be using. It is driven oil LS30 5W30 performance synthetic. I'm going to be using the factory filter that came on this vehicle, and I will list all this stuff down below. Now, as you can see, it is raining outside, so I'm not going to be doing this on the ground. I'm going to be using my lift. So if you do not have a lift, you can do this on the ground. If you have some race ramps, that helps, so you can get it up far enough to get a jack under it. The other thing is K-Tech makes some really nice pieces. They're like jacking pucks. So these slide into the bottom of the car. Now these are the extended version because I have the side skirts, obviously, because mine's a ZR1. But all in all, like I said, I'm not gonna be using these today because I'm gonna be on the lift, but let's move this thing down so we can access the fill point, because I'm gonna take that cap loose to give it a little bit of air as I'm draining it. Real quick, let's talk about a couple of the tools that you're going to need. Obviously, you're going to need the oil. I bought 11 quarts. I think that should be enough. If you wanna be safe, buy 12. Of course, the filter UPF 48R. This is the factory filter. This is just a preference. You guys can use your own oil or filter that you prefer. But you're going to need a 15mm wrench to get the bolts out of the pan, or a socket. Now, these two are optional. I like to use the filter wrench to take the filter off because a lot of times your hands are greasy, and a torque wrench because I like to torque everything to spec. So 15mm socket, obviously, on the torque wrench. But other than that, some gloves, some towels, and of course something to catch the oil in. Now that it's on the ground, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cap off, and what that does is it allows air to get in the system so it drains a little bit faster. So now we're going to lift it back up and we're going to loosen the drain pan bolts. Once you have it up off the ground and that cap loose up top, it is time to take the bolts out in the pan. Now, a dry sump engine has two bolts. It has a front one, and then it has one on the side. And of course, we're gonna change the filter while we're at it. So make sure you have your catch can in place, and I'm gonna go ahead and do the front one first. Now, while that one is still draining, I'm going to go ahead and remove the second one, which is here. Once both those have drained, I'm going to move on to the filter. Now, the filter is kind of hard to get to. And if it's tight, I like to use this tool that fits GM filters. So what it does is it slides up on there, and I'll list it down below as well. I've used this on several cars. It fits about every GM product that I have. But we're gonna take the filter off next, and I'm gonna let these continue to drip because I want as much of that old oil out as possible. You know, if you were doing an oil change back to the same oil, it may not be as big a deal, but like I said, I want all of the old stuff out, or as much as I can possibly get out. So let's move on to the filter, get it out of the way, and let it drain. Now, once a majority of this is drained, I'm going to go ahead and wipe this mating surface off just so we have a clean surface to mount the new filter to, and we're going to grab the filter and put it on. Before I put the filter in, one of the things I like to do when the filter mounts the way this one does is I like to go ahead and fill it with oil. That way it's not having to fill up when you start the vehicle. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this up with some oil, and then we'll screw it on. One one of the things that you noticed I did was I took some oil and spread on the actual rubber here, and that just softens that up. It's just always a kind of an old trick that a bunch of people that change oil do. Like I said, it softens that gasket up. But we're gonna go ahead and put this thing into place, and we're just gonna snug it up. You don't have to get crazy on this. Just make sure that it's nice and snug, and then we will move on to putting the bolts in. Once the oil filter is tight, now we need to move on to the drain plugs. So take a look at your plugs and see how the gasket looks. If they look deteriorated, make sure you replace them. Mine, I'm probably going to get by with one more time, but I'm going to go ahead and reuse these. I did wipe them all off. Go ahead and thread these in front and back, and these need to be torqued down to 18 foot-pounds. Now, if you don't have a torque wrench, it's not a big deal. Just get them snug. It's not a huge deal if you don't get them to 18 foot-pounds. Just don't over tighten, and of course if you under tighten it will leak. So I'm going to torque mine to 18 foot-pounds, and then we'll drop this thing down and get some oil in it. One other thing I will tell you guys is if you do want to torque the oil filter down, it is 22 foot-pounds. So if you want to use a torque wrench on that, 22 foot-pounds, and then 18, like I said, on these. So like I said, let's drop this thing down and get some oil in it. Now, once you get the car back down on the ground, which if you're not using the lift is a lot easier because you're not moving it up and down, but you need to get a funnel into place, and we're going to pour 10 quarts in. Now the car calls for 10.5 quarts. That's either LS9 or LS7. They both call for 10.5 quarts. But remember, I did pour some in the filter. So we're going to start with 10 quarts, and once we get the 10 quarts in, then we will start it up and we will check it, and I'll talk about that procedure after we get finished with putting the oil in. We now have 10 quarts of oil in it. I went ahead and put the cap back on. The other thing, guys, if you have a catch can, now is a great time to check and see if there's any oil in it. You do not want this thing to get too full. It will blow oil out everywhere and makes a huge mess. So I went ahead and took that off. I didn't show you on camera, but unscrewed the bottom. It did have just a little bit in it, but if you have a catch can, like I said, when you do an oil change is a great time to check it. So now let's fire this beast up, which will be an awesome cold start. And then I'll talk about the proper way to check the level of oil. All right, headphone users, watch out because it's going to be ridiculously loud in this garage. So guys, it's incredibly hard to hear in here, I know, but what we're trying to do is you need to get the oil temperature up to 175 degrees. Once it's up to 175 degrees, then we can shut the car off and wait about 10 minutes, and then we will check the level. So you don't want to shut it off and check it immediately. You're not going to get an accurate reading. Make sure that it gets to 175 degrees, and then you wait at least 5 minutes, but not more than 20, and you want to check it there. So that's what we're doing. All right, guys, we made it. Now, don't be discouraged because it does take quite a while, especially it is cold outside, so it may take a while to get to 175 degrees, but that is what you need. So now I'm going to set a timer. Probably going to set mine for 10 minutes. Like I said, you could set it for 5, but I'm going to set mine for 10. Make sure you check it before it gets to 20, though. Once you've waited the set amount of time, it's time to check it. So that is done here. That is your oil check. So I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to try to set this on the tripod so you guys can kind of see it. 2 hands. But pull this out, and it's almost like checking any other kind of oil. Kind of wipe it off, put it back in, push it all the way, make sure it seats all the way, and then pull it back out and check. So we are a little bit low. I'm going to add another 1/2 quart, and we should be good. Well guys, we are all finished up here, and hopefully this video was informative. Hopefully it's something that you guys can do at your house on your own and not have to go to a dealer or pay somebody else to do it. It's a relatively simple process, doesn't take long, but I wanted to show you guys kind of the process on a dry sump oil engine. Now, this does work on a ZR1 as well as a Z06. Anything with the dry sump oiling system, this process will work on. It's pretty much the same on every car that has dry sump. But what do you guys think? I think this car is absolutely nasty. I wish the weather wasn't so bad because we would take it out and rip on it, but it is rainy, and well, I just don't drive this car in the rain, and I don't want to crash it. So I will have a video down the road of us going out and ripping on it, but I will tell you that the oil pressure is way better with this oil. It was averaging around 30 to 35 with the Royal Purple. Even at operating temperature, it was around 50 PSI with this, so that is a huge improvement. So hopefully I like this oil a little better. Like I said, it was recommended by the guy I got the cam from. So guys, if you like this video, smash that thumbs up button. If you're not subscribed, why are you not subscribed? Go down and hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell icon, that way you're notified every time we drop a new video. And well, stay tuned because we got tons of stuff coming for this, the Trans Am, everything we got. And thanks for watching.